Welcome to the Final Scene Story channel. Today, I'm going to tell you the summary of an old Hong Kong movie titled The Happy Ghost. This 1984 film tells the story of a man from the Qing Dynasty who falls into despair and ends up taking his own life. But instead of reincarnating, his spirit becomes trapped in the noose he used to hang himself. Years later, a group of energetic girls unknowingly brings that very noose back home with them. So, what do you think happens next? That's why you should watch this video until the end. But before we begin, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Now, let's begin. The film opens with a man dressed in traditional Qing Dynasty clothing. He's about to take his own life by hanging himself in a temple. After he dies, the scene jumps far into the future. We're now introduced to a group of cheerful girls who are enjoying a beach holiday. Not long after, Juliet notices a group of teenage boys arriving as well. Bonnie explains that they're students from Ningbing School. Apparently, they've come here on purpose, just to get closer to Juliet, the school's queen bee. That night, while they're having a barbecue, one of the boys starts showing off, trying to impress the girls. But then, it starts raining. At first, the boy keeps singing in the rain, but eventually, he runs off too. With their tent ruined by the rain, the girls look for shelter, and they find it in an old, abandoned temple. Soon, the boys also follow them there. Before entering, they hatch a plan. They want to tell ghost stories to scare the girls, hoping the girls will cling to them in fear. Unfortunately for the boys, the plan backfires. The girls aren't scared at all. In fact, when it's Bonnie's turn to tell a ghost story, he's the one who ends up scared, after seeing a glimpse of what looks like a vampire behind them. After the rain stops, they all decide to head home. But since the strap of Bonnie's bag is broken, she unknowingly grabs the hanging rope from the temple to use as a replacement. The next morning, they return to their dorm and get back to their usual routines. Of course, Bonnie also brings the hanging rope into his dorm room. That night, Bonnie is shocked by the sudden appearance of a ghostly vampire, none other than the same man from the beginning of the film, the one who hanged himself. Here, the vampire introduces himself. He claims to be a well-educated man from the Qing Dynasty. Back then, people used to call him Officer Pick. Officer Pick wants Bonnie to return the noose so that he can go back to the old temple. Bonnie agrees, but says she'll do it after he finishes her athletic competition tomorrow. The next day, the school's sports competition begins. In the locker room, Bonnie meets her biggest rival, Clifton Ko. Tarzan provokes Bonnie and even starts warming up using Officer Pick's rope. As a result, Officer Pick feels dizzy and annoyed by Tarzan's presence. But it doesn't stop there. During the competition, Officer Pick, who's still stuck in the wrong place, keeps getting disturbed by Tarzan's actions. So Officer Pick decides to get revenge. He sabotages Tarzan Ko's efforts and, in contrast, secretly helps Bonnie. In the end, Bonnie wins first place in the competition. After the event, Officer Pick reminds Bonnie of his promise to return the noose. But since Bonnie finds Officer Pick useful, she persuades him to stay and become her friend instead. Officer Pick eventually gives in. Later, in the dorm room, Bonnie convinces him to meet her two best friends, Venus and Juliet. At first, Officer Pick refuses, but when Bonnie threatens to burn the noose, Officer Pick reluctantly agrees. Long story short, Officer Pick meets Venus and Juliet. Instead of being scared, they laugh at him. They think he's just a regular guy dressed up for a Halloween party. Of course, to prove that he's really a ghost, Officer Pick shows off his supernatural powers. Venus and Juliet faint on the spot. At the same time, a janitor from the dorm sneaks up to peek inside, curious about what's going on. Officer Pick spots him and decides to mess with the poor janitor just for fun. The next day, during the annual event attended by both the boys' and girls' dormitories, Juliet receives several gifts from boys who want to dance with her. Confused and unsure who to choose, Juliet suddenly gets help from Officer Pick. Officer Pick casts a spell on Juliet's vision. Now she can see glowing color circles above the boys' heads, along with the meaning of each color. In the end, Officer Pick suggests she choose the boy with glasses, the one with a rainbow-colored circle above his head. He says, "That boy must be full of color." Then, as the music starts playing, all the boys approach Juliet one by one. And of course, Juliet picks Joseph, the boy with the glasses. But unfortunately, the party quickly becomes boring. All because of the presence of a strict supervisor, Sister Lee. Bonnie asks Officer Pick to do something. Without hesitation, Officer Pick casts a spell on the supervisor. Suddenly, the party turns wild and exciting. It turns out that Sister Lee, the supervisor, has been magically sent by Officer Pick to fall asleep inside the bathroom. But not long after, Sister Lee wakes up, storms back into the party, and immediately shuts everything down. That night, Bonnie, Juliet, and Venus eat noodles together in their dorm room. Officer Pick says he's happy to be living in the human world. As he's talking, suddenly Joseph shows up. Of course, the others leave Juliet alone in the room. Joseph's only intention is to say goodnight. After saying it, Joseph is about to leave, but Officer Pick stops him and whispers that he should go upstairs instead. So Joseph climbs up. Once he's in Juliet's room, the two of them start kissing passionately. The next morning, after spending the night together, Joseph says goodbye because he has to go to school. Later in class, Sister Lee confiscates Juliet's notebook. It turns out it's not schoolwork, but a love poem for Joseph. Naturally, Sister Lee tears it up and continues the lesson. Feeling sorry for Juliet, Bonnie throws a piece of chalk at the Sister Lee from behind, but unfortunately she gets caught. So Sister Lee throws chalk back at her in return. And of course, Officer Pick won't let that slide. Moments later, the principal walks in. Taking advantage of the principal's presence, Sister Lee announces a sudden inspection, targeting long hair and short skirts. Seeing that Bonnie, Juliet, and Venus are all wearing skirts that are too short, Sister Lee starts scolding them. And before long, Officer Pick decides to prank Sister Lee again. After that, Bonnie begs Officer Pick to help her in the upcoming exam, but as a respected scholar, Officer Pick refuses. Frustrated, Bonnie threatens to return him to the temple and burn him there. Even so, Officer Pick still refuses to help her cheat. Meanwhile, Venus goes home. Her parents remind her not to fail the exam, since all of her siblings have impressive achievements. If she doesn't pass, they say, she will just be married off. Back to Bonnie. She's seen riding a bus, planning to burn Officer Pick at the old temple, but she changes her mind when she sees Juliet and Joseph together at the park. Bonnie decides to secretly follow them. Juliet asks Joseph for money for an abortion because it turns out she's pregnant, but Joseph refuses and walks away, leaving her alone. Of course, Bonnie comes to comfort her. Officer Pick is furious at Joseph. Feeling somewhat responsible, Officer Pick decides to teach Joseph a lesson and begs Juliet not to go through with the abortion. Joseph, on the other hand, is out on a date with Judy. Naturally, Officer Pick plays tricks on him. Eventually, Judy gets fed up and walks out on him. Right after that, Joseph's legs freeze up, and then Officer Pick reveals himself. He demands that Joseph kneel before him and promise to marry Juliet, and of course, Joseph agrees. At night, Officer Pick reports that he has already taught Joseph a lesson. Meanwhile, Bonnie pleads with Officer Pick once again to help her cheat in the upcoming exam. She purposely questions his intelligence to provoke him into helping her, and sure enough, feeling insulted, Officer Pick finally agrees. The next day, Bonnie confidently enters the exam room with the hanging rope tied around her waist. But once the test begins, Officer Pick confesses he can't answer any of the questions. He panics and disappears, leaving Bonnie fuming with anger. Elsewhere, Venus becomes extremely anxious. She can't remember anything at all. She decides to peek at her book, but Officer Pick stops her, and unfortunately, Sister Lee sees it. As a result, Venus gets kicked out of the exam room. After the exam, Officer Pick approaches Bonnie, but she's furious. She tells him she never wants to see him again. Meanwhile, Venus sees her parents arriving unexpectedly. She looks even more pressured and hopeless. Juliet runs to Bonnie and reports what's happening, fearing that Venus might try to end her life. They both rush back to the dorm. Sure enough, they find Venus sitting on the rooftop, as if ready to jump. Bonnie and Juliet climb up to stop her. From the ground, the janitors also try to persuade Venus to come down, but Venus refuses. Then suddenly she slips. Luckily, she manages to grab onto the ledge. Juliet faints from the shock, while Bonnie rushes to help. As Bonnie tries to save her, she accidentally slips too, causing Venus to fall. But instead of getting hurt, Venus floats away, landing on a giant helium balloon. Turns out, it's Officer Pick's doing. Seeing this, the janitors scream in terror. Meanwhile, Bonnie and Juliet ask to be taken to where Venus lands. They find her stuck on a lighthouse. Venus says only death can end her suffering. She doesn't want to disappoint her parents, but she also struggles badly with memory, especially during exams. Juliet starts crying too, because Joseph refuses to take responsibility for the pregnancy. And suddenly, Officer Pick starts crying as well. This is when the truth comes out. Officer Pick admits he's not a scholar, let alone a real officer. He only dreams of becoming one. He has failed the imperial exams more than 16 times. Before his father died, his last wish was for Pick to pass the exam and become a government official. But Pick failed, again and again. And worse, his once loyal wife eventually left him for another man. It turns out, the sorrow Juliet and Venus feel, Officer Pick has lived it all before. That's the real reason why he ended his life. Officer Pick says that suicide never solves anything. He wants to reincarnate, but he can't. Now, He hopes that Juliet, Venus, and Bonnie will find the strength to move forward and live their lives fully. Elsewhere, the janitors report to Sister Lee about Venus flying through the air. They are convinced that the dormitory is haunted. At that moment, Sister Lee suddenly recalls all the strange things that have happened to her. That night, after returning from the lighthouse, Bonnie and her friends find the principal, Sister Lee, and several nuns waiting in her room. Sister Lee grabs her bag and instructs the nuns to burn the hanging rope. Meanwhile, the three girls are punished by being forced to run laps around the field. As the nuns recite prayers and begin burning the rope, it suddenly starts to rain. It feels like a sign. Officer Pick is gone for good. Worried, the girls sneak back into the dorm, but sadly, Officer Pick has truly disappeared. Through tears, they place what's left of his rope into a clear bottle and write on it, "Best friend forever." In the middle of their grief, they sense a strange presence. It turns out, Officer Pick has returned. Even he is confused as to why he's still here. Maybe because he's a ghost. Officer Pick says that since becoming friends with them, he finally understands how wonderful it is to be human. Humans have joy, sorrow, hope, and ambition. That's why Officer Pick decides he wants to reincarnate and be human again. In the end, the girls help him reincarnate by smearing the ashes of the hanging rope onto stalks of bamboo. Bonnie places the bamboo in the spot he asked for, and with that, Officer Pick leaves them behind. The film ends with Bonnie winning a running competition. Even though she fails her exam, she stays motivated after being chosen to represent Hong Kong in the Asian Olympics. Venus continues her education by entering teacher training, and she even finds her soulmate. And finally, Juliet marries Joseph. She gives birth to a baby boy, who looks surprisingly like Officer Pick. And just like that, the film comes to a close. Yes, that was the ending of The Happy Ghost. So, what did you think of the movie? Let me know in the comments. I'll be reading them. Thank you for watching until the end, and see you in the next video. Bye.